Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another review. But today we are going to be switching it up. And today we are going to be doing a video game review and taking a look at Resident Evil 3 on PS4 by Capcom. Now, as you can see, I am a huge Resident Evil fan. Ever since I played the first game back in 1996, I was a little kid. It scared the absolute shit out of me, and I've loved it ever since. My dad was going out to run some errands, and he was like, "Hey, son." And I was like, "Yeah, Dad. You want me to rent you a video game while I'm out?" Hell yeah. "Well, what kind of game do you want?"
"I want to shoot things."
I promise I'm not crazy. And so he returned with Resident Evil. Needless to say, I got to the first zombie, and that was it. I was done. Being a little kid, I was scared of everything, and I couldn't bring myself to play the game again. Of course, I played the sequels, 2 and 3, Code Veronica, 4, etc. Loved them all, some more than others, and then, of course, I returned to the original, and loved it just as much. But today I'm not here to talk about those games. Maybe we will in a future review. Today I want to talk about the remake that Capcom put out just a month or two ago. First and foremost, Jill Valentine, the original protagonist in the original Resident Evil 3, does return with a more revamped look, which I was cool with. Fits more with the time. And of course, her trusty sidekick Carlos is there as well. More mercenary driven this time, more wanting to save the city and people, which I'm totally cool with. He seems more like a hero instead of like a suave, debonair kind of guy that he was in the original. Although there's still that little hint of him, being a ladies' man, trying to hit on Jill every 5 seconds. First, let's start off with the gameplay. It was a nice more upbeat tone to Resident Evil 2, where it was more kind of, walking down creepy hallways and in the dark and using the flashlight and everything. And this one's more like kind of just, action in your face, balls to the wall. And I was cool with that. It was like, we showed you what we could do with a horror theme. This time we just want you to kill everything in sight. So I was down with that. Of course, they brought back the dodge that was implemented into the third game, which I had an easier time with this one than I did in the original. So kudos to them on that. Of course, the graphics and the aesthetics and everything are all top-notch. It seems like they worked on it even more than from the previous game in Resident Evil 2 Remake, which was good to see. And of course, they brought back Nemesis, which they completely have revamped his look, which some people are not a fan of, and I guess I understand that for nostalgia purposes. Myself, I was cool with it. It seemed like they were going for more of a realistic version, whereas they were working on a human test subject, and it became Nemesis. I mean, I don't know if that was the deal, but that's what it seemed like to me, and I was okay with that. And I also like the garbage bag look. Now I'll go ahead and say that the original Resident Evil 3 is not one of my favorites. I don't even think I would put it in my top 5. It's still a good game. I see why people love it. However, the main problem I had with it growing up was the fact where Nemesis would chase you everywhere. And I'm never the person in a game where I have to work/play under pressure. I kind of like to go at my own pace. I always felt like I was in a rush. And of course, I mean, you can down him to get health, ammo, and other goodies, but obviously I was never good enough to do that. But it seems like in this one, his chase scenes are more cinematic, and it seems like they kind of cut that out more than they did in the original. So, to me, I was okay with that. I know a lot of people were upset about that, and, rightfully so. I get it. The main problem I have with the game is what a lot of people are talking about, the cut content. Most notably the clock tower scene. The clock tower area, I should say. In the original, the clock tower came into play much more than it did in the remake. In fact, it doesn't really play a part at all. You just see it, and then you pass on. So that was kind of a letdown. I remember the clock tower being you know, a pretty significant part of the game. And in this one, they were just like, nah. And so, and not just that, they cut out, you know, several parts of the game, and I think that's what the game suffers from. Resident Evil 2 Remake is definitely one of my favorite RE games, and I thought that the third would only up the bar, and unfortunately I don't think it lives up to its predecessor. And I'm a little disappointed in that. You know, I'm kind of reintroducing myself to 3. I do have the original third one, but it's on GameCube. It's not on the PlayStation. It's basically just a reported version to the Nintendo. But I thought that I would reintroduce myself with this new remake and maybe see some of the glamour that others saw in the original. Unfortunately, I didn't. I still had fun with the game, but not as much as I did. Well, I should say nowhere near as much as I did in Resident Evil 2 Remake. The game is fun. It's just disappointing. I remember in Resident Evil 3, the original version, they had the mercenary mode. And I actually enjoyed playing the mercenary mode. And I don't understand why we didn't get that with this one. Instead, Capcom chose to put out another game along with it called Resident Evil Resistance, which is a 4-on-1 online multiplayer game. When I think of Resident Evil, I don't really think of multiplayer online. I usually just think of a story-driven game. Now, that's not to say I don't enjoy online multiplayer. When Mercenaries came out in 4, I loved that mode, but it wasn't online, and then they implemented it in 5 and then in 6, and I enjoyed playing that with someone. But when I look at Resistance, it just doesn't do it for me. I've watched gameplay of it. I get that some people like it and enjoy it, and some even say that it's really good. And I understand that. That's, hey, more power to you if you enjoy it. It's just not for me. I think Capcom missed an opportunity here with doing another Mercenaries mode like the original, because we had a slew of characters they could have... we could have played as. You obviously have Jill, Carlos. You could have played as Nikolai, Mikhail, Tyrell, Brad. I mean, they had so many people that they could have put in it, and I'm not entirely sure why. I don't know if maybe one day it'll show up in a DLC. You know, one can only hope. Yeah, ultimately, Resident Evil 3 Remake is fun, but also disappointing. My final rating for Resident Evil 3 Remake is going to be a 7 out of 10. Like I said, guys, I had fun with it, but ultimately it just did not live up to the predecessor. Gameplay is great, however, content is severely lacking, like a lot of people think themselves. I've already platinumed the game. I don't see myself going back to it for a while. I pretty much unlocked everything that there is. But if you have it, hopefully you enjoyed it. You know, with the persistent rumors that Capcom wants to remake Resident Evil 4, if they do, hopefully it isn't bogged down like Resident Evil 3 was. Hopefully no content gets cut, because that's the last thing that 4 needs. To be honest, I don't even know if it needs a remake. I still think it stands alone as one of the greats. But who knows? We'll see. But that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe. Also, if you're into action figures and photos and the like, go check me out on Instagram. Give me a follow. No Photoshop is used in my photos. It's all tangible. So go ahead and give me a follow over there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Who the my door? What?
Stars.